Merry Christmas. Welcome to the Find and Follow podcast, where we believe life is in the light, spiritual darkness is the enemy, and finding and following Jesus is the best way to live life. I'm your host, Scott Langhans, joined again 2 weeks in a row by the co-host crew. Kyle and Craig are here.
Hello. I wanted to say something clever, like, I don't know.
You had a whole week to come up with clever.
Hi. Good morning.
Wow.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Okay, Truman Show.
I won't follow that.
Okay.
I'll just let that one hang out there.
We are here, just the three of us again. So we are...
Don't say, like, just the three of us. Just say, hey, it's the, like, that's good news. I mean, it's...
Should I try? All right, ready? Redo. Ready?
Yeah.
Hey, it's us again.
It's the three of us.
All right. We're here to talk about life and Jesus in Christmas stuff. I do have a big announcement today, and you guys don't know this. This is brand new information. You ready?
Really?
This is the end of season 1.
But I did know that.
You did?
Yeah. You just told me that before we started filming.
No, I didn't say just the last one of this year.
Oh.
And I'm just going to say this is the end of season 1.
Okay.
Now you ask why.
Why?
What defines a season?
Down at the bottom, when you're uploading the podcast, there's these little things. You can put the episode number and season. And I just want to click number 2 instead of number 1.
Just to say that you've been a part of a podcast that has more than
multiple
one
seasons.
We got, what is it when like the network brings you back? Hey, we got renewed for a new season.
Oh, we just got renewed.
Way to go, us.
We're back for season 2 in 21.
The executive producers just gave us the word. It's good news.
That's the only reason, because it sounds like a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Season 2.
It's not like in church world where we just have messages every week on Sundays and keep going. Do we have different seasons? No. Years? No. Just, I don't know. In podcast world and TV shows and production land, they have seasons. So I thought, hey, let's do season 2. It's
Season 2 starting in 2021.
It's
I
going
like
to be
it.
totally new, revolutionary.
How many episodes were part of season 1?
Should we have different music for season 2?
Sure.
I'm going to throw that out there. So if you think we should have different bump music, which that little intro and outro music for season 2, that would be maybe the big change.
You could do new graphics.
Maybe
Get a different
there's
picture. Go on a different hike
I got to go on a different
and
hike.
take a different picture.
I do. Hey, I don't need a good excuse to go on a different hike, but that's a good excuse to go on a different hike.
There you go.
And maybe there's a new intro, an updated intro.
Well, maybe you should.
No, I think we're going to stick
no,
on
Scott
that.
likes it.
Yeah, we got some
He might be
purpose
the only
behind
one,
it.
but he likes it.
I like it.
So he's sticking with it.
Man, it's so apropos here in the Christmas season about light and darkness. And Jesus came. He's the light of the world, the bright shining star, the glory of God around the angels. And, came at night. Like, there's just so much light and darkness. It's just the reality on it. I mean, I think it works even more going into season 2.
Doubling down.
I'm doubling down
Sticking
on
with
season
it.
2. So, no, we are going to take a couple-week break for the Christmas, New Year holiday, and we'll be back in January with more guests and more conversation around Jesus. And we're getting there in John. We've been walking through the eyewitness
Close.
account of John.
Too bad. Oh, we didn't finish John in season 1.
Oh, it's a cliffhanger.
Season 1 could have been, it's like one of the when the season ends with like, what's going to happen to Johnny? We don't know. What's going to happen at the end of John? Is Jesus going to make it?
Right?
Spoiler alert, he doesn't. He still dies.
Wow.
Sorry.
No, he doesn't,
That's
but
the
does.
note you want to end on?
But then he does. But the spoiler, cliffhanger, what happens? Okay.
We're kind of at the climax. They're out to get him.
Yeah, we're
We're
close.
almost there. And
That's
then you have to
a good
wait.
spot to end season 1.
All right.
Yeah, man.
It's like we had a plan or something.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite TV shows? Do you ever remember like season-ending cliffhangers? Maybe you're for the audience here, you're listening, you're like, it ends like traditional seasons. You remember old school TV where there's 3 channels or 4 channels, and shows would end around May, and then there would be the summer break, and then they would start filming, and then they would put them out, and you'd be like, I don't know, are they gonna die? Are they gonna get married? Or are they breaking up? Or, there would be something.
Oh, for sure.
Like Friends or Seinfeld. Those didn't really have strong, like running. Friends did, I guess, but.
Lost.
Lost
was one of the ones for me that in college we had Lost viewing parties. And then even when I graduated coming home, my brother and his friends and my parents were still really into it. So we would record it on the night and start it like 15 minutes so we could fast forward. And yeah, that was one of the ones that And if you're a fan of Lost, I mean, it's just it got crazy, it got weird, it got nuts. But it was that like every week was one of those like, what the heck is happening? And then there'd be seasons that you're like, I gotta wait months.
I don't think they knew what to do at the
No,
end
they
of that
didn't. They were
show.
just riding it like as they went. Like I don't know what you should say. Yeah, it got a little ridiculous. But that was one for me that
I was never a
vividly-
big fan of Lost.
Oh,
Did you ever have a show where you like loved, you liked it so much you just were thrilled when the season started back up? Or do you have?
Way back when I was a kid, there was
Wow, we did go way back.
there was the One-Armed Man. What was that show?
The one-armed man?
The what?
The $6 million man?
No.
Oh.
The Fugitive. So Richard Kimball, I think his
Oh,
name
yeah.
was.
I've seen the
And he was
movie.
accused of killing his wife, but
Right.
it was really the One-Armed Man who broke
That was a
into the-
show back when? I just thought it
Yeah,
was
Harrison Ford in The Fugitive. It's a good
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. Well, there was a
before
movie.
that. Before the
there was
Harrison
a whole
Ford
TV
movie.
series.
Who wrote that book again? That's a
Grisham?
I didn't read
Is
the
it
book.
John
Is it
Grisham?
Grisham?
I think it's Grisham.
Isn't it a Grisham book?
I'm
You're like a
not-
big Grisham guy.
I
thought
think
you
I
were-
feel like it's.
I don't think
I mean,
that's
if I
John
was playing trivia, I would write.
Oh,
that
wow.
down. I would write Grisham.
I
But now
think-
I'm gonna Google it as you guys.
I would
talk.
think Siri just piped in. She was trying
Yeah,
to chime in on
She-
our
she was,
conversation.
yep.
I don't know what she heard right there.
Actually, it was my watch.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm not sure what you're doing. But yeah, you're waiting for Fugitive to come back around?
Well, waiting to see if Richard Kimball gets exonerated because he's trying to find the one-armed man who can prove his innocence. And meanwhile, he's being chased by the marshals and federal marshals. And
That's a good movie still.
Yeah, that's
It's
a
like
good-
early 90s, the Harrison Ford movie. It's
Yep.
still a good one.
And that's based on the TV series. And so
I
yeah,
love
couldn't
Tommy
hardly
Lee
wait.
Jones' character. He's the federal agent
Right.
hunting him down. He does a great job with that character. I forget the exact line, but when he's on the run, he jumps the dam and he's going down the river.
the scene,
and then,
yeah, where he jumps
Tommy
off
Lee
the
Jones'
dam.
character is like, I want everybody to search every outhouse, doghouse, hen house, and he just goes. There's this little 20-second deal, and it's just a classic quote. I love that, and I can't do it justice.
First episode date of The Fugitive, September 17th, 1963.
63.
There you go.
Went
Craig
to-
was
went
just
to
a little
67.
whippersnapper.
It ran to how long?
67.
That's it.
So that's
Yeah.
your junior high,
Yep.
early high school years. Yeah.
But those are the good old days when like season 4 was 30 episodes.
Oh,
remember those good
those
days?
were
Like
great
right
days.
when there was like now it's like a season's like 3 episodes. You're like, wait, we're done with the season?
Hey, oh man, I don't remember. We're on episode, I think this is 32 of a podcast. I feel like, so that's part of my other reason. Like, I feel like that's a solid season. 10 episodes? Nah, not going to cut it. Now it's just all ruined. Now they just release a whole season, instantly on Amazon or Netflix or Disney or wherever, right? And they just kind of go, "Brr," there you go, and people binge watch 12 episodes in a weekend, and you're like, oh, I'm done with that. Like, there's not the savoring of 30 episodes, September through May or something like that. And you're like, they would take a break for holidays, new episodes starting in January, and you would just like have something to look forward to every week. And now we live in this instant, gotta have it society where kind of ruins some of that season ending. Now you gotta wait, you binge watch it, and you gotta wait 18 months to
To get the next season.
Yeah, season 4 of Stranger Things to come out or whatever. You've Googled it a few times, like, when is season 5 coming out? And like, speculation. Anywho, I didn't mean to get so much on that rabbit hole of TV and stuff. But anyways, I don't know. I just thought it would be a thing. Season 2
So this is
starting
the
21.
culmination of season 1.
The season
Yes.
finale.
Ooh, all
Welcome
right.
to the season finale.
This is the season finale. So we could just reminisce again about our favorite guests. Mine is Amy again this week. No, just kidding. About reminiscing part. So something happened to me this last week. I thought I'd share. Because last week we were talking about John 15 and Jesus' command to love each other as I have loved you. Which is like the thing when it comes to following Jesus. Like, it's super clear.
It's the
There's-
ultimate. What's the penultimate, you think, then for Jesus? The commands for Jesus?
Can you explain the penultimate?
Yeah, it's like secondary. It's ultimate. You
The
can't have. There's ultimate, and then there's penultimate.
You can't have 7 favorites?
Yeah, you can't have. If it's something's the ultimate, there's got to. It's the
Secondary.
successor. So
Yeah.
if love as I have loved you is the ultimate, what's the penultimate commandment from Jesus?
Well, I think the serious answer is Jesus does have 2 favorites. He says, love God and love each other. So that's like 1 and 2, but there's so much the same. They're
But they're
like
both
one.
ultimate.
Yeah, they're both the ultimate because loving God is loving your neighbor and loving your neighbor is loving God. That they just go hand in hand. You can't separate them. So does that count?
No, because there's no penultimate.
No.
There's just one ultimate. That's two.
You just wanted to say the word penultimate.
Is exactly what is the case.
That's like me going season 2.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the word.
Because nobody uses penultimate.
I do though.
Penultimate? That's even a funny thing to say.
Sorry.
Anyways,
so as you were saying, something happened to you this week.
Yeah, so this last week. So love each other as I've loved you. And throughout the podcast, I hope as people are tuning in and listening, as you're finding yourself driving right now or working out or at work listening or at home or whatever you're doing, that that for all of us, that it just goes into action in our life, that it causes us to be different because we've encountered the one who can make us different. And it's not just rhetoric and it's not just verses that we're reading or, stuff to memorize, but it actually changes the way we live and therefore changes the way we love and interact. And so really, really long story short, condensed, is if you don't know, I got dog attacked on my front porch July 31st of this last summer, so 4.5 months ago. And it was my neighbor's dog who's untrained, is a rescue. It's a hybrid dog. It's a greyhound mixed with something else. It's a 135-pound dog that literally the head stands almost 4 foot. I mean, it's a huge dog. It towers over like our dog, and our dog is big. And the dog standing next to me was way above my waist and almost up to like my ribs. Anyways, it got out unprovoked, came over, got on our porch, was standing between me and my dog and our front door, and lunged, flared teeth, attacked our dog at the throat. My hand was holding my dog's collar, so my hand got in there. Anyways, neighbor came out, and she was not compassionate, had no sympathy, was only concerned with like liability, grabbed her dog, went home. Like that was it. Like there was no, hey, are you okay? She's in like 4.5 months. It's never been, hey, how are you doing? Does your hand still hurt every day from nerve damage? Like, are you doing okay? Like zero. I've never gotten any of that in all of our interactions. And then a few weeks later, an elderly lady was walking her greyhound in front of our yard, and the dog got out again and attacked her and her dog, caused that dog to have to go to the emergency vet. The lady got injured on her hand as well. And the dog, according to our neighbor, has attacked their other dog that lives with that dog and maybe has attacked one of their kids, according to our kids. So this is just a troublemaking dog that honestly just needs to get put down. Police were involved, and they didn't really do anything. There was later reported. It's just been an ongoing saga, and the insurancing part of it took over 2 months, maybe 3, was it almost 3 months, like into October, before it went through insurance and urgent care got it back. And I'm proactively calling like, hey, do you guys have a bill? Because my neighbor needs to pay this bill. And I don't want to drag this out. I don't want them. And in the meantime, the house that she bought was with another guy she wasn't married to. He moves out in late August, early September. And then there's just kind of a flurry of different people and activity at the house. And it's not stable. It's not normal going-ons. And anyways, took forever. Finally got a bill. Gave it to her. She didn't do anything with it. Had to go back over a few weeks later, like, hey, you're going to do something with this? You need to pay. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Da, da, da. Life's chaotic, and my life's, just all this victim speech and just, oh, my goodness, and I'm finding out all this stuff, and just zero concern for other people, right? So finally, like a few weeks ago, I sent her a text again and like, hey, here's an online link. There's no excuses of like when they're open and when you can call. Just a lot of stuff having to work through. And through this whole process, it's like, well, love each other as I have loved you. Like, love is patient. Love is kind. Love doesn't keep a record of wrong. And I'm like, yeah, but she owes the bill. It's her responsibility.
Yeah, and her dog bit me, so
yeah,
she's wrong.
And I've been in pain like every day for 3 months. It's better now. I finally feel like I don't feel it as much. And she said, I'll pay for it. She volunteered. She knows she's responsible. So, this is the short version of the story, by the way.
Really?
People are like,
wonder what the long version
right?
would be like.
There's a lot more to it.
So thanks for joining our episode. This is our season cliffhanger.
Finale. Scott's
Find out
life
what
with
happened
the
to
dog
Scott.
attack.
Yeah. Well, we read
Next
this.
season.
We read this verse, talked about it last week, and again, I'm getting to that. It changes the way we live. So she said, "Hey, after she paid half of the bill, or a little less than half the bill last time, hey, when they send you another bill, just let me know, and I'll pay that." And I'm like, you know what's remaining? Like, you have the whole bill, just pay it. Like, you don't have to wait. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, I hate stuff that lingers and hangs out. Like, I would just pay the bill, be done with it, is my approach for Amy and I. That's how we operate as best we can. So I get another bill, and I've been in contact with urgent care billing department. They are the least concerned about it. She's like, we're good. I put a note in your record, like, you're not going to get charged late, because my name's on, right? And I'm just concerned. She doesn't care at all. I'm like, this is...
They got enough money coming in. They don't really care.
Well, and they're just used to delinquent payments and collections, all that kind of stuff, right? It's normal for them. So I get another bill on Monday in the mail, 2 days ago, and get it. And all right. So that night, take a screenshot, take a picture of it, text it to her, say, hey, got the rest. Just can you please pay it and send me a screenshot that, you paid it, and this would be great. Thank you. So she texts back that the guy who was living there, who they've been living together for like 4 years, bought the house together, like co-owned the house. He died on December 2nd. And I don't know the relationship, and, obviously they're still connected a little bit and have, the house together. She goes, he died on the 2nd in a car accident, and he hadn't been paying the mortgage, and life's just kind of crazy. Can you have some patience? Because I can't take care of this right now. And instantly, God was like, Scott, you need to pay the bill. In my heart, right? And I was like, But it was so clear that it was God, like Christ in me, talking to me, like, you need to pay the bill. And I was like, but it was so evident that it was God, I was resistant. And he's like, and it's not even about her. Because if I try to go down the track of, well, what does she deserve? Well, time out, Scott. What do you deserve? And to love others like I love you means to give mercy to people, who let them off the hook for what they do owe. And what does a person need in the time of whatever their relationship was? There's still grief and loss and the chaos of her life, and I only know bits and pieces of it. What does she need? She needs mercy. And I'm the kind of guy that would rather stick it to people, make sure they learn a lesson, own up to it. And I told Amy, and I showed her the text thread, and I said, I think we should pay it. She said yes, like instantly. And I was like, okay, God's at work in this. And so, it's $171 was the remaining part. And I'm like, this is just a way to love others like Jesus loves me. And grace and mercy it has everything to do with us, because we don't deserve it, and we get things we don't deserve, and we don't get things we do deserve. But it's all about the love of the Father. And I'm not God, but God in me says, love others like I love you, and that all of my life would be a glory pointer to God. And so I paid it, took a screenshot of that, sent it to her, and said, it's our pleasure to pay this. So sorry for your loss. Let us know if there's anything else we can do. Merry Christmas. Jesus loves you. And I didn't get a lot back from her, besides I was not expecting that, and Merry Christmas. But, that's just where she's at in our relationship. But I know that God's at work in that. And that kind of generosity that points to God, that gives him credit, will hopefully help her to realize who Jesus is. And that is far greater than just a season of giving or a Christmas thing, but that God loves you and sees you in the midst of your chaos and in your hurt and in whatever's going on in your life, that she needs Christ. And again, it's more about what God was doing in my heart and trying to help me to live open-handedly with generosity. And he'd been doing that for several weeks in little different ways, and this is part of that, but just living more, for me to exercise the generosity muscle even more so than I have been, to live open-handedly and say yes, knowing, because I'm the nerd in our house, so I'm always running the budget through my head. Like, I'm always seeing the numbers, and that trips me up so much it limits what God can do, because I got numbers in my head and logistics and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. That was for me. I was like, oh no, this is really you have to. If you want to follow Jesus, you got to love others the way I loved you. And you're like, oh, this is the enemies of your life. She's an enemy. You know, in the truest sense that we have a conflict. Not that I hate her or I want to get her or anything like that. I just want her dog to go down. But other than that, I don't. You know what I mean? We've talked about that, about what an enemy is. It's just someone you're at odds with. We're at odds.
Right.
But what did Jesus do? While we were still sinners, while we were enemies of God, he loved us. He died for us before we could do anything for him. That's how we know what real love is, that he laid down his life. In verse 13, it says, greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. So I'm not saying that we should always, it's not like, that's just my story. It's not like prescriptive for the rest of my life or for other people's lives. Like, oh, anytime someone owes you money, you just got to pay it. And that's the Jesus thing. No, it's just, she paid part of it. And then God was like, no, you're going to pay this part. This is your job. This is your part. And yeah, to love. So,
and I think that's part of what we talked about last week is you understand what remaining in Jesus and the fruit that's bearing in your life, right? Like you share the fact that you knew that God was calling you to do that because you have spent your life remaining in him and bearing the fruit of that. So even if it's difficult at times to bear that fruit of compassion and mercy and forgiveness, that you have been as a branch, as a vine, connected to Jesus. You know his voice, you know his leanings in your life, you know the tug at your conscious, the Holy Spirit in you going, this is God, this is the true vine telling you as someone who's connected to him, and you're familiar with that. So
yeah, and we have three 6 eyeballs, 3 sets of eyeballs watching our lives. Our kids are understanding. And so not that we share everything with them, and it's not like I share the story to get credit or to get glory, because we've been talking about it. And it's so good for my soul to be like, no, God gets all the credit. God gets all the glory. He's the one who provides us resources financially. He's the one that is love that's in me. He is the one that is patience. He is the one that says, hey, because of Christ in me, I can keep no record of wrong. And I literally got a record of wrong in the mail, with like a date and amount put to it. And he's like, oh, we don't keep record of wrongs here. This is what we do in the kingdom. I'm like, okay.
And again, to your point, that's not prescriptive for anybody else to pay people's bills because somehow that's the Jesus thing. And you made that point. And that's not necessarily prescriptive for you yourself for the next time around. But what is prescriptive is that you followed Jesus in the way that he was leading you in that time. And that's what everybody should do. All of us should do all the time. When we are aware that the Holy Spirit's leading us a certain direction, that's the point at which we follow. And that part's prescriptive.
Yeah. Because So again, there's a lot more to this story, but part of it, when she sent that to me, my first reaction was probably not. Like, she might be lying to me. Because I just don't trust. We don't have a deep relationship, and what we have has not been good. So I was like, she might be. I mean, that would be a weird lie. That would be a weird text to try to get out of a bill. You know what I mean? So I Googled it, and then I instantly found a press article about it. And it was a week ago, and it described his car and his name. And I'm like, oh, that's his car. I know his car. It's a very distinct car. That's him. And the short little press article, I'm like, those are not good circumstances. Died in a car crash. And what it's listed, I was like, oh, not being responsible. You know what I mean? Just not making good choices. So, but yeah, it was one of those things, like, God was like, no, this is how you love well. And the rest is God's part, what he's doing in her heart and other people's heart. And I just got to do my part when God goes, hey, this is more about what I'm doing in you and through you, buddy.
Yeah.
And you trying to make a result happen in your life.
And we've asked the question this way, which isn't new, but what does love require of you? And I think that's answering this question that's not always prescriptive and not always just this blanket statement of this is what love looks like, but you're asking the question, and Jesus is really asking you that question. Hey, Scott, what does love require of you in this? And he's gently reminding you that for you in this moment, that requires of you to be compassionate and merciful and forgiving in this very tangible way, and reminding you that that's what he's done for you and for us. And so in those situations, again, a lot of times our knee-jerk reaction isn't, it's whatever the situation. It's anger or frustration or, cynicism. And Jesus is going, hey, what does love require in this situation? And it doesn't always require paying the bill. Sometimes love requires having a deep conversation with that person and helping them grow and showing them different things and all that kind of stuff. But I think that step of asking that question and asking Jesus that question and being honest with yourself and with him with the answer. So for you in that scenario, you felt this is what love requires of me. And you had it had been a journey for you because you had been loving her to the best of your ability before that.
Yeah.
And, probably better at sometimes than others, but doing that in different ways. So again, I appreciate that for people to go, it's not just this is what that means to love someone. Because maybe in a different scenario or given a few different change of circumstances, the loving thing would have been to quote unquote make her pay or hold her to that and have a conversation with her and help her and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
But asking that question is a huge step in that growth.
Because we're just genuinely trying to follow Jesus, more about what he's doing in us and through us, the fruit that would be is lasting fruit, is fruit that, is eternal. She does have the assets to pay $171.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff in her garage, there's vehicles in her
Absolutely,
driveway, you know what I mean? There's a house. Like it's not about the dollar amount, it's about what God's doing in our hearts in and through this. And I want to be part of that. I want to join in. I want to be connected to the true vine, the one that is life and bears good fruit and fruit that lasts. I was also inspired by, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Dave Ramsey and the Ramsey organization, they're what they did this last week. No? Okay. So real quickly, you could Google it too. It's awesome. So Dave loves Christmas, and they throw a huge Christmas party, and they have 1,000 employees. They throw outlandish Christmas parties. Like last year, they gave like every one of their team members $1,000, and they bust everybody to like shopping malls. So they gave away $1 million for a day, like type stuff, and they spend a ton on their Christmas party. Well, this year's a little harder to get a bunch of people together to party, so they took a bunch of their Christmas party budget money, and they've been working for the last 6 months, and they went and talked to debt collector companies that have bad debt that they purchased from a credit card company or car companies, and so they're the collectors now, trying to squeeze the money out, and you can buy it for like 5 cents on the dollar. I mean, cheap. So they bought a $10 million worth of bad debt and then canceled it all. So they canceled $10 million in bad debt, medical debts, car debts, credit card debts, and then they gave each one of their team members like 8 or 10 names, and everybody called and just said, hey, and nobody believed them, right? When you call, hey, Bill in Texas, this is, so-and-so Ramsey Solutions, and just wanted to let you know that $3,600 medical bill is totally canceled. It's forgiven, 100%. Merry Christmas. Jesus loves you. And I had heard that story, so I bet it wasn't conscious at the moment, but looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, I bet God was using that. Dave said he called somebody, it was like $36,000 car debt that was taken off the books because they bought it for pennies on the dollar, and so there's $10 million of debt forgiven. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That is cool with like extra zeros on the end of it. And so, so looking back, I'm like, oh, well, I could do it for one. I wish I could do it for 8,000 or 10,000 people, how many accounts that was. But I was like, that's cool. That's something fun to do.
That is fun.
Absolutely.
That would be a fun job. Hey, your job every day is just call 10 people, tell them their debts are forgiven. Yeah,
there's a lot of organizations I see. The medical debt one is huge, and there's a lot of organizations that you can do. I have pastor friends that have done lots of different stuff like that for, like you say, purchasing pennies on the dollar. So their congregations give, and they're able to, with thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, ripple effect into millions of dollars worth of debt that can be canceled because working with organizations like that buy debt from hospitals or debt collectors.
And then in those collection worlds, they try to add fees and interest, and so it can be 2 or 3 or 5 times the original debt that they're trying to squeeze out of people. And people owe the money.
Yep.
They had the service, or they bought the car, or they bought the stuff on the credit card, and they owe it. But what does love do? Well, it cancels all of our sins. Forgives us. And so,
So do you want to talk about being hated now then?
yeah,
Let's talk
Sure.
about being hated.
I guess
Well, that's
so.
verse 18, but I'm not ready to go on past 15 and 16.
Oh, did we not
Okay.
get there last week?
We kind of were,
Well,
cruising around that area. So,
yeah,
what do
we
you
were.
got, Craig?
Well, in verse 15, he makes this amazing statement. No longer do I call you slaves, for the slave does not know what his master is doing, but I've called you friends. And then he defines friendship in a very interesting way. He says, for all things that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. And so what he's defining for us here is that one aspect at least of friendship, and it's the one that's in view in his thinking as he's talking with the disciples, is that friendship involves disclosure. And I heard it years ago, and I've often repeated it, that disclosure brings relationship. So when you open up and disclose things about yourself, it invites relationship, and when the other person does the same and reciprocates, that's the pathway to a really healthy and close and more intimate relationship. And for all of us, and for those of you that are listening, this is a principle that's applicable in any context. So you want a better marriage? Disclosure brings relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Open up and disclose something about yourself to that person that you're with. Having trouble with your kids or your parents or your neighbors because of their dog that's out of control, disclosure brings relationship. In the work environment, in any context, and certainly in the world of church and fellowship and believers and small groups and stuff like that. I mean, you can take any relationship and improve it through disclosure. Mm-hmm. So there's a valuable principle there. And he's saying, that's what I did with you guys. I disclosed things instead of just taking what the Father showed me and keeping it to myself. I disclosed it to you, and that helped transform you from slaves to friends. So there's something really powerful there.
Yeah, that's what Christmas is all about, is becoming friends with God. You
Right.
know, the relationship that we have with God is really multifaceted and has a depth to it, because God is our Lord, He's our King, He's our Savior, but He's also our friend and many other things. But we don't always think of in the context of friendship with God,
Right.
Because it seems too buddy pals, and kind of doesn't seem to give God enough glory, where He should be honored and revered appropriately. But He is our friend, and all of us want to be known and to know others deeply. And the only time I think it really trips us up, and you're like, no, I don't really want to tell that person or let that person know, is what trips us up, hangs us up, is we're just afraid to be hurt. Not that we don't want to be known or that we don't want to know people. It's just the junk that gets in the middle, where it's, you don't want to trust, you don't want to reveal yourself. They
Don't
might
want to be rejected, criticized,
Yep.
judged.
They might take what they hear and leverage it for their own good and try to, do something against you with it. But that doesn't take away the fact that we do want to be known, and we want to be known by people. That is deep in all of us, because it's image bearers of God.
Yep.
That we are friends with God. And this friendship is restored because of Christ and what He did for us.
Yeah, and John, we've talked about that a lot. John continues to hit that idea of this change in relationship, change in status, right? We were here and now we're here. We were adopted. He just even goes on in verse 16, you didn't choose me, I chose you. My translation says, I appointed you. So there's this glory that we've received. There's this, adoption. There's this appointment of a role to play in the picture. You're important, right? And John talks a lot about that. When Jesus comes, we transferred from, even enemies of God to friends of God.
Yeah.
From one, that's what Jesus did. And there's light in the world, and we bring that into the light. And again, he's continuing to talk about that even in this disclosure type conversation, right? We like to hide in the dark, even in our relationships, or keep things hidden in the dark. But when we bring it to the light, there's life in the light, and that even
There's life in the light. That has a
what?
familiar ring.
Yeah, we
that.
should keep that at the
I've heard
beginning,
that.
too. That's so good. I'm glad you said
'cause
that.
spiritual darkness is the enemy.
Boom.
Um,
Be known.
right? So even relationally, life is in the light, right? We think that,
Right.
oh, if my spouse finds this out about me, or if my friend found, or if my boss knew this thing, then it would affect our relationship. Where the truth is, when I'm able to disclose who I truly am and the things that make me me, and work through those things relationally, it brings health and wholeness and life, because life is in the light.
Right.
And all of those ideas are tied together.
Yeah.
Just a little digression on that particular point that you were making, Kyle. So we're worried about what will happen if we disclose, and so I think some might, as they hear that, they might think, well, so the right thing, the Jesus thing, always is more disclosure, and that's not actually true either. There's a flip side to this coin. This same Jesus says to the disciples, "Don't cast your pearls before swine." Principle being, don't take the precious truths of God and put them out there for people who are just mockers and who won't appreciate them or value them. And that's why he spoke in parables so often, and he explained that many times to the disciples. And then on another occasion, in fact, I think it's later on in John here, he says, "I have many things to say to you, but you can't bear them now." In other words, there's much more I could disclose, but I'm not going to, because you have a capacity limit. And there are some things that he didn't disclose to the general population, but he certainly did to the disciples. So there's some discretion on that. It's a principle, but it's not just a blank check, always disclose everything at all times. Because I've seen lots of damage done to relationships when people don't exercise wisdom and good judgment in what they disclose and to whom they disclose it.
Yeah. I want to stay on that track, but so I got a thought on that, but I want to intersect real quick. So you just read it, and we've had this conversation many times with guests when we ask them, "Hey, how did you find Jesus?" And they're always like, "Oh, I think God found me." We have that conversation, and Jesus said that. He says, "You didn't choose me. You didn't come find me. I found you," which is true for all of us. So
it is true.
that's where we get that from. It's like, no, God chose us. He called us, and so therefore we are responding to Him. We have a part in that, but He finds us. But anyways, back to what you're saying with the disclosure and the transparency to be known, there's definitely some wisdom on how you go about communicating, revealing, talking about stuff with people. Absolutely, with people that are maybe more of acquaintance or just met. There's a level of transparency. If they're not interested in God and God things, this doesn't do a lot of good to be like try to shove it down their throat, quote unquote, or they're not curious about it. Again, Jesus' point of like, I'm going to say a parable. I'm going to wait and see who goes, "Wait, what are you talking about? What does that mean?" "Oh, okay, now I know you're interested. You're intrigued. Let's have more of a conversation about that." There's a difference between honesty and authenticity. Wow, a lot of syllables here early. And transparency. So you should be 100% honest all of the time. Then you should vary your level of transparency depending on the person and the context which you're talking about.
There you go.
And again, I appreciate, Craig, how you brought up. There's wisdom in that, right? There's things that you don't have. There's things I disclose to my wife that I don't disclose to you guys because
Right.
our
That's
level
how it should be.
of our relationship is different, and so there's wisdom there in. Oh, just disclosing this is going to bring, so you make that statement, which is true, and we understand that here, but there's wisdom in how that works, and again, I think that's understanding the level of relationship and the appropriateness of disclosing that in the relationship,
Right.
and again, asking ourselves the question, what does this bring to the level of relationship? There's things that I disclose to my wife, knowing and understanding the depth of intimacy that my wife and I share, and the addition of intimacy that disclosing this information will add to that relationship that won't add anything to this relationship, that
Right.
won't add anything to my closest friends, right? That's like, it doesn't compute. So just doing it for the sake of doing it, again, thinking through that with wisdom, how would this add value to the relationship,
Right.
just like anything else?
Yeah, so real practical example is like I could ask you, "Hey, how you doing today?" And you can be 100% honest and say, "Not good. Kind of a sad day." And then your level of transparency could vary depending on the context, right? And you could be like, "I just can't talk about it today," which would be like a 0, or 2 on the scale. Or like, "Hey, we got to get some work stuff done. Don't really have time to dive into it." But you go home and Lynn's is like, "How's your day?" You're like, "It's kind of a sad day and some sorrow." And then like, "Well, hey, what's going on?" And then you have 100% level of transparency because of the person and the context. So that's what I mean by that.
Right.
The other thing I think really helps, particularly in a marriage, and maybe you're listening and this would help your marriage, your relationship, where both parties go, "I want to be known by you and I want to know you." Divorce is off the table. And to say that out loud and to genuinely like go back to your marriage vows to say, till death parts us. Like that's what I agreed to. That's my word, my character, my honor of you is to say, tell these bodies are separated physically because of death. That's the only option. And what damages a relationship, what causes people to hold back is when we threaten or we passively aggressively kind of hint around, like, if you do that again, I'm out of here. If you do that again, we're separate. If you do that again, I'm going to, no, not this time. Well, I did it again. Okay, but not this time. If you do that again, or when this happens again, or we're doing the, and there's always this threat. So then you think, well, I can't tell them. They're going to leave. I can't, disclose this because divorce is looming. It's always on the front edge of the relationship. And it's like, Amy and I were like, divorce is out. Period.
Yep. I totally agree.
Divorce is out. Better or worse, baby. And we're going to keep following Jesus, and we have a beautiful relationship. It's not perfect, but it's wonderful. And that's a large part of it, that we're like, no, we're just going to work through it. It's bumpy at times. And there's conflict and disagreements, but it's beautiful, and it's wonderful majority of the time. And we're just in it to fight for each other and to fight to honor God and say, divorce is out.
And furthermore, she's your favorite guest host on
She
Find
is
and Follow
my
podcast.
favorite. She's the best. So great. So be a friend of God. It's a great way to live. I think is where we're rounding out on that.
So do we want to talk about hatred, or are we going to wait till season 2?
Or 3. I don't really want to talk about hatred. No, we'll talk about it later, I think. Jesus is just saying, hey, listen, get on the Jesus train, but don't be surprised if some people are against you.
But I think, maybe to tease, to your point.
Oh, cliffhanger.
To your point that you just said, even with your relationship with Amy, it's not perfect. There is going to be some trouble.
She's perfect. I'm the one that messes
Amy's
it up.
perfect. You're not.
Love you,
and
babe.
because Amy's perfect and you're not, your relationship is imperfect because of you.
Bingo.
Right? And this is even becoming more to my point.
Yes.
Jesus is perfect.
Oh.
But because of us as a part of the relationship with Jesus, there is some imperfect parts to our life. But Jesus is going to say, with this hatred part, hey, don't be surprised when the bumps are in the road. But I still got you, and I still am perfect. And we can talk a little bit about that in season 2.
Season 2.
And what that
as
looks
a
like.
cliffhanger. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, because you would think through Christmas and Easter, right, where it's Jesus came, Emmanuel, God with us, and then Easter, the death and resurrection for God to be able to go, sins are forgiven. You owe the money to urgent care, but it's taken care of times 1 billion or 1 trillion. Who wouldn't love Jesus?
Yep.
Who be hating on Jesus for all the miracles and everything?
Who be hating on Jesus?
Right? So we'll leave that there. I did want to read Colossians 1. I've been in Colossians 1 with this glory stuff. If you've been with us on a Sunday, listening in on a message, we don't have time today, but verse 27 of Colossians 1, talk about knowing and being known. Like I love secrets. We love to know. We love to know things about people. That's why there's tabloids and gossips and People magazine and shows and keeping up with and all that kind of stuff. We love to know that kind of secrets. For God wanted them, the Gentiles, us here today, everybody listening, right? Wanted them to know that the riches and glory of Christ are for you Gentiles too. So anybody listening is for you too. And this is the secret. You ready? You want to know a secret?
Can we have a drum roll, please?
Yeah, cue post-production drum roll. Go. Christ lives in you. God came at Christmas not just to be on earth or to do a thing, but to be able to live in us. This gives you assurance of sharing his glory. That we got hope for the future. We're sharing in and out, and even more so in the future, the full understanding and experience of sharing in the glory of God. Not just knowing about God, but God's in us, and we're experiencing what it means to live a life following Jesus for eternity. So that's it for today. We're running out of time, so we'll
What a great season.
What a great
season was.
It's actually been our best season so far.
Best ever. We'll see you all at the wrap-up party. The wrap party?
Ooh, we got a rap party.
Yeah. So anyways, thanks for tuning in to season 1, whether you listen to 1 minute or we have done like over 1,000 minutes. I think it's like 1,200 minutes of podcast this year.
A lot of talking.
It's a lot of helpfulness. Some of you have felt like you've listened to 1,000+ minutes, and we appreciate
Some
you.
people felt like they listened to 1,000+ minutes of a dog bite story just today.
just
today. That's right.
If you'd like more, give
And
me
that
a
was
holler.
the short version.
This is the short version. I think God's still at work, and we'll see. We're in the middle of another part of the story.
To be
To
continued.
be- I'm
Another
honestly-
cliffhanger.
Oh, no, we got him
cliffhanger.
going
Tune in
again, Kyle.
2021 to hear the ending of Scott's dog story.
Yeah, there's God's at work in some stuff today, actually, literally today. So, anyways, big cliffhanger. Wow,
Lots of
just
things
major.
going on.
But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for getting the word out, sharing this with people, helping others find and follow Jesus. We do appreciate it. So thankful that people are being helped and engaged and hearing backstories and people looking forward to it every week. So I really do, genuinely, we all appreciate your engagement, your input, and we just want to help people find Jesus, get connected to life and the true vine. So Merry Christmas. We'll see you for season 2 in 2021. You can help people find and follow Jesus by subscribing to the podcast, sharing it with some friends, and leaving a review so it's easier for others to find it.